We are living in crazy times, guys. If you were born in the last century like I was, you will remember these guys, these money doubling guys on the streets that want to scam you by promising to double your money, and they'd have someone come around and, one of their friends or whatever, and they do the doubling for him or her, and then the passers-by will hopefully fall prey of the scam, and then they get scammed one way or the other. So those were crazy times, and making money, doubling your money on the spot was clearly known by most people to be a scam. But in this world that we're living in now, you can go to sleep, buy a crypto token of an exchange, and wake up and it's more than doubled. I mean, that's double plus tax, depending on where you're living, right? OKB, an exchange, is doubled in price overnight as Altseason kicks off in a fiery way. As you can see, lots of green all over the place. Even these reds, right, are only red because they pumped excessively in the last couple of weeks or so. Okay, in the last week, lots of tokens looking good. Link is nearly 50% up in the last week alone. That's absolutely amazing. It's to be expected because, of course, Link is vastly underrated for what it is. Okay, so it's one of the tokens that I think is going to do amazingly well this Altseason. It's not a sexy token. It's very boring, but it's very, very important for everything else. So it's probably the strongest token in the world, even more so than XRP in terms of fundamentals. But because it's so part of the ecosystem, it's part of the furniture and fabric of crypto, that most people don't think about it. Yeah, it's just something that you expect to be there, to work all the time and make sure everyone else is fine while, all the other tokens pump like crazy. So shout out to Chainlink. By the way, my voice is a little bit weird because I went out yesterday and we were screaming and talking over some music. So now my vocal cords are suffering for that matter. But XRP looking really, really nice. It's pumped a little bit as well to just over $3.28. It was $3.27 when I started this, so it's ticked off by 1 cent. And there's a reason for me highlighting that price, because in this article that I was reading, the technical analysis says to watch out for the $3.27 price level, and an analyst called Martinez identified that as a critical threshold for continued upward movement. So breaking that or being able to pass that would mean it might break $3.60. So I'll be looking at that today, $3.27. So it's achieved that price that was mentioned in this article. By the way, the article is about whales accumulating 900 million XRP tokens in the last 48 hours alone. And this is despite all of the FUD that has been dropped by various parties concerning XRP. XRP looking amazing, but what's looking really, really good is Ethereum. Let me just get the Ethereum chart out. Ethereum is melting faces at the moment, and it's surging towards its previous all-time highs. Now, like many people who have been talking about ETH in the last few months, we kind of wrote ETH off a little bit because of its clunkiness, its slowness. But it looks like we've been looking at ETH from the technology point of view. We've been looking at ETH from the, comparing it to other tokens based on its utility, right? But the reason why ETH is pumping now, of course, is because of the ETFs and institutional buy-in. And these institutions actually don't have the same level of scrutiny, I think, of tokens as we do. They don't have the same use case for these tokens as we do. Their use case, as we already know, is to make profit. And they see Bitcoin having been extremely successful with the inflows that occurred in the past few months and the profit that Bitcoiners, from an institutional level that is, are sitting on at the moment. And they feel they can replicate that with Ethereum, which is the next token on the market cap ladder. Of course, the availability of the ETFs as well helps them to be able to FOMO into Ethereum. So BlackRock, Fidelity, whoever is offering an Ethereum ETF, they're doing very well. The inflows are flowing in like crazy. And it seems to me that institutions are doing with the ETFs what we would do with the tokens as we, cycle down the ladder. I think it is important from their point of view for the providers of these ETFs, i.e. BlackRock, etc., to concentrate the inflows on a particular token so that they can demonstrate the pump to their customers, so the pump effect is more pronounced, more defined, and it looks more successful that way. And I think that's behind some of the FUD that is coming out from some of these institutions, one of which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But shout out to XRP for achieving that price that the analysts set, $3.27, as the a critical point to watch for. So in theory, later on today, we should see a positive move from XRP, and going down the week, we might see some beautiful moves, especially now that the FUD that's related to, I don't know how this is even a thing, the SEC Ripple case that we all know has finished and concluded. There's some little bits of uncertainty that people have taken the opportunity to release on social media just to create a little bit of confusion and uncertainty. I remember someone left me a message in a video that I made about it being over, that it had to return to Annalisa Torres to do something about it. But Annalisa Torres didn't edit her conclusion, a previous conclusion decision, and they are moving on from that. I mean, they wanted her to edit her initial decision to make it easier to sell to third parties that are of the institutional nature, but XRP itself is taking a completely new, or Ripple as a company is taking a new path with XRP sales. So some of those, or that ruling, that injunction is kind of irrelevant actually now for Ripple and XRP, in that they're taking a different route anyway. Also, because of the whole banking license thing and the new powers, quote unquote, that Ripple is going to get from it, a lot of this stuff is now illegal because they're de facto licensed to do a lot of these things now. All they have to do is register whatever it is with the SEC, and they're off to the races. So a lot of the things that were crucial and critical years ago, when the licenses weren't there, when Ripple didn't have all those third-party companies that they've acquired that have those licenses and access to institutions on the boardroom level, then we had these little bits of FUD. Oh, you know, we needed Torres to say this and that. Now, all they have to do, Ripple, to sell massive bags of XRP or RLUSD to a company is get one of those acquired banks, whatever, that they have, brokers that already deal with those companies, get their compliance and legal teams to talk to each other and clear off any misconceptions. So, you know, what they were trying to avoid was a PR issue where companies thought to themselves, oh, this XRP thing, there's something illegal about it or something legally wishy-washy about it. But with a direct, you know, lawyer to lawyer, compliance executive to compliance executive, talking over a cup of coffee or beer or whatever, that could be cleared up in just, you know, a matter of a couple of days or so, right? So no problems with that. Ignore all that kind of FUD. Just remember that while you're being FUDded away and the price is being manipulated, whales are accumulating because they're watching Ethereum now go towards all-time highs and probably break it by the end of this week. They know that what's next is XRP because that's what's next down the ladder, and it's inevitable, guys, that this is going to be an approved thing, the ETFs, and the money is going to flow in like insanity. And the amount of money that it's going to take to pump XRP is much less than how much money is pumping Ethereum right now. So you just wait till that happens. We're about to see insane things. Not financial advice, your own research. Talking of BlackRock clarifies that XRP ETFs aren't a thing at the moment. Okay, so just the same way they said that they weren't applying for Ethereum ETFs when they initially did the Bitcoin ETF. So again, not an outright lie, but sort of like, oh, we're not doing it now, kicking the can down the road, knowing fully well that they're doing all the preparations. Obviously, I don't know, I'm just speculating. But if I were to say, I would say that they are indeed preparing this stuff, okay? And, you know, they'll be stupid not to. But they don't have to come out and tell us unless, you know, because why would they kneecap the inflows that they're experiencing right now with Ethereum? They'll let the Ethereum ETF run its course, let the inflows come in, let the bags be made, and then they would release their application for an XRP ETF. Of course, they're not the only company that's going to apply for an XRP ETF or get one. Indeed, we have seen XRP ETFs applications everywhere outside the United States, but obviously BlackRock is the biggest investor in the world at the moment. Well, from the company point of view, they have infinite pockets and people kind of look towards them as sort of the signal to get in, right? And once they apply, there's a nearly 100% chance that they will get it because they're in control of the authorities, right? So also other firms tend to do what BlackRock does. So if BlackRock goes ahead and applies, best believe you're going to see a whole bunch of other firms like JP Morgan and Fidelity, etc. also apply. So ignore this. Also, I'm starting to see some anti-XRP versus Ethereum FUD as well, saying, you know, they don't no longer think that XRP is going to flip Ethereum I still believe this is going to happen. So months ago, because of the slowness and lackluster movement of Ethereum, and because of the pump of XRP, that 5x that we did at the turn of the year, people were saying that, XRP was primed to flip everything all the way up to Ethereum. Of course, it flipped the likes of Tether at some point. It flipped, what was it? Was it Solana was ahead? And it flipped a whole bunch of other tokens to regain its number 3 spot, which was a legacy position anyway. But now with Ethereum's really, really strong move in the last couple of weeks, a lot of people are now saying that they don't think it's going to happen this cycle. But that's because they haven't seen the movement that XRP is capable of when its own ETFs hit, okay? And that's still very, very possible, indeed, maybe even likely in this particular cycle that we're in already. Again, I've seen people say that the cycle thing is over because of the institutions. I think we at least have one more of those to go. And I think we're going to see a bear market for sure after this, because things have pumped too hot and things are going to pump insanely hot when the alt season really gets going. I mean, this is going to happen in the space of, half a month or something like that. We're going to see God candles all over the place. I mean, some of my micro caps are already starting to wake up, but we're not even in that territory yet. A lot of those micro caps are still sitting at minus 80 something percent in terms of where they are from the previous all-time highs. Some of my micro caps are even at minus 95%. So all those have to do is go to halfway to what they used to be, and I would already have made almost a 5x on some of them. So looking forward to those hot times. Shout out to everyone who's holding and dollar cost averaging. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Peace.